You ever have one of those days, you get to the end of it, and you are just completely wiped out? And not because you ran a marathon or did some heavy lifting, but just because you existed. If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. It seems like there's this special kind of exhaustion in today's world that's so much deeper than just being tired. Okay, let's get into it and unpack the many faces of modern exhaustion. This quote from Reddit really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It gets to the very heart of the matter. Our energy isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's mental. Forcing yourself through small talk can literally drain your battery. But a deep, meaningful conversation about something you're passionate about, that can actually charge you up. It's such a good reminder that the kind of effort we put in matters just as much as how much effort we put in.
So, that's really the big question we're trying to answer here. Why do we feel so totally spent after a day that was just emails, maybe a few meetings, running errands? A day where you didn't lift anything heavier than your laptop, but you still feel this profound sense of being completely empty. Let's go find some answers.
To really answer that question, we first need to put a name to that feeling of being just utterly done, because it's more than just being tired. It actually has a clinical name, and understanding what it is really the first step to figuring out what to do about it.
According to Healthline, it's called emotional exhaustion. It's a state of being worn out by stress that has just piled up over time. This isn't about one bad day. No, this is the result of constant pressure, day in and day out, especially when you feel like you have no control. It's that trapped feeling that really, truly starts to take a toll. And that toll, wow, it shows up in some pretty serious ways, both emotionally and physically. I mean, just look at this list of symptoms. Lack of motivation, trouble sleeping, being irritable, even physical stuff like fatigue and headaches. This is literally what happens when your mind gets so tired that your body starts to feel it too. Recognizing these signs in yourself is absolutely the first critical step. Okay, so we know what emotional exhaustion feels like, but what's actually causing it in our day-to-day lives? Well, let's zoom in on two powerful and honestly often overlooked thieves of our mental energy: monotony and the insane number of choices we have to make every single day.
We usually think of burnout as what happens when you're overworked, right? Burning the candle at both ends. But it turns out there's another kind, monotony-driven burnout. This is that quiet, creeping exhaustion that comes from doing the same thing over and over and over again, with no variety or challenge. It's not about doing too much, it's about doing something that feels meaningless for too long.
And then we've got the second thief, decision fatigue. Every single choice we make, from what to wear in the morning to which email to answer first, it uses up a little bit of our mental energy. And that energy is finite. As the day goes on, our ability to make good decisions just goes downhill. You can think of your willpower like a muscle. The more you use it, the more tired it gets. So on one hand, you've got overload burnout. That's the loud, dramatic one we all know, fueled by crazy hours and impossible deadlines. But then there's stagnancy burnout, and this one is way more insidious. It's that feeling of being stuck on autopilot, where your energy just kind of fades away, not because of a crisis, but from a total lack of stimulation. And the consequences of decision fatigue, they are very, very real. We start avoiding choices or just stick with the default option. We find it harder to regulate ourselves. I mean, ever wonder why candy's always at the checkout aisle? It's because by the end of your shopping trip, your willpower muscle is exhausted, and you're way more likely to make that impulse buy. It gets us in big and small ways. Now, these two daily energy thieves, they don't exist in a vacuum. They're actually being amplified by the culture we live in, a culture that is constantly, relentlessly pushing us to go faster and do more. This whole phenomenon even has a name: the sickness of speed. This term, hurry sickness, it's not a formal medical diagnosis or anything, but man, does it perfectly describe modern life. It's that constant nagging feeling that you're running out of time, that you have to rush through absolutely everything, and that every single second has to be productive. It's this relentless, exhausting sense of urgency. Do any of these sound a little too familiar? Compulsively multitasking, getting intensely frustrated by a slow driver, sacrificing your lunch break just to get more done. These are all hallmarks of hurry sickness, where we start treating time like it's an enemy that we have to conquer, instead of, something to actually live in. And our jobs are pouring gasoline on this fire. A recent survey found that 45% of employees said their workload has significantly increased over the past year. That is nearly half of us feeling the pressure ramp up, which just feeds this whole culture of hurry. So we've looked at the emotional side, the daily triggers, and the cultural pressure. Now we're going to zoom out one more time to the deepest, most philosophical layer of our exhaustion. This one is all about the pressure of just being a person in the modern world. There's this French sociologist, Alain Ehrenberg, and he has this fascinating theory. He says that in the past, the main psychological struggle was conflict, controlling your inner impulses to fit into society's rules. But today, in a world with endless choice, our main struggle is a feeling of insufficiency. The pressure isn't to conform anymore. It's to become your best possible self. And here's the real kicker. That very freedom to choose yourself, to build your life and identity from scratch, can be an absolutely enormous burden. Ehrenberg argues that when we feel like we're failing to live up to our own potential, we don't feel guilty. Instead, we just feel exhausted, dejected. He thinks this is the signature illness of our time. And that really gets to the core of it all, doesn't it? Our weariness isn't just about our to-do lists. It's tied to this huge, unspoken pressure to constantly be achieving, optimizing, and improving. It's an exhaustion born from the massive gap between who we are right now and the person we feel we're supposed to become. Okay, I know, that was heavy. But understanding the problem really is half the battle. So now let's zoom all the way back in from the philosophical to the practical. We can't change the entire culture overnight, but we absolutely can build a personal toolkit to start reclaiming our energy. I love this framework. It suggests we stop thinking about self-care as just one big thing and instead break it into 3 modes. First up is repair. These are your emergency actions for when you're already stressed out. Second is maintenance, the daily habits that keep your tank from hitting empty. And third is growth, the long-term investments you make in your future, more resilient self. It's a much more structured way to think about it. To fight back against that hurry sickness, a simple tool like the 4D method can be incredibly powerful. Before you start anything, just ask yourself, first, do I absolutely have to do this now? Second, can I defer it until later? Third, can I delegate it to someone else? And finally, my personal favorite and the most powerful question, can I just delete it entirely? It's a direct attack on the idea that everything is urgent. So here it is, your starter toolkit, pulling from everything we've talked about. To fight monotony, shake things up, find some variety in your work. To fight feeling overwhelmed, just pause before you automatically say yes. To fight hurry sickness, try mindfulness, to just be in the present moment. And to fight every single kind of exhaustion, the foundation is, and always will be, protecting your sleep. And that brings us to one final thought. We've spent this whole time looking at the real costs of our modern obsession with speed and efficiency. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What if we've been measuring the wrong thing all along? What if true productivity and real well-being isn't about how fast we can go, but about finding meaning in what we do?